That world is gone.
Remember that line. By the end of this video, you'll understand why it's not just dialogue. It's the entire thesis of the film. And nobody's caught it yet.
After years of war, no one could stand between my men and home. Not even me.
Quick context if you haven't seen the trailer. The Odyssey is a 3,000-year-old Greek poem by Homer about a king named Odysseus trying to sail home after the Trojan War, a journey that takes him 10 brutal years. Christopher Nolan is adapting it. It hits theaters July 17th, with Matt Damon as Odysseus. Every war has two endings, the one where the fighting stops, and the one where you realize what the fighting cost. Most people will watch this film and see the greatest adventure ever written, a hero fighting his way home through monsters, gods, and storms. But what if I told you that the entire production, every costume, every camera angle, every casting decision, is quietly proving a thesis that nobody's talking about? Odysseus isn't trying to get home. He's trying to get back to a world that no longer exists. And Nolan has buried the proof in plain sight. Let's start with the thing everyone's already fighting about: the armor. When the first behind-the-scenes images dropped, the internet lost its mind. Classical historians, Reddit threads, YouTube comment sections, all saying the same thing. The armor looks wrong. It's dark, it's weathered. It looks like boiled leather and blackened iron. Where's the polished Mycenaean bronze? Where's the gold? Where's the gleaming, heroic aesthetic we've seen in every Greek epic since the 1950s? Here's what everyone missed. The armor isn't wrong. It's the most historically honest choice in the entire film. The Trojan War, if we accept the traditional timeline, sits right at the edge of one of the most catastrophic civilizational collapses in human history. The Late Bronze Age collapse. Around 1200 BCE, every major palace economy in the eastern Mediterranean disintegrated. Not declined, not weakened, disintegrated. Trade networks that had held for centuries broke apart within a few decades. Cities were abandoned. Writing systems were lost. Not the languages themselves, people still spoke, but the ability to record them, to preserve knowledge on clay and stone, gone. The Mycenaean civilization, the very Greeks who supposedly sailed to Troy, didn't just decline after the war. They vanished. Completely. That's not a recession. That's an extinction event. And Nolan knows this. He said it himself. When people complained about the dark, blackened look of the armor, he pointed out that there are Mycenaean daggers that are blackened bronze. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a budget shortcut. It's a timestamp. It's telling you, before a single word of dialogue is spoken, that by the time Odysseus picks up his sword, the civilization that forged that sword is already dying. The bronze is tarnished because the world that polished it is gone. The armor is the collapse. Now look closer. Look at the helmet. The Corinthian helmet that appears in the promotional material. That style of helmet didn't exist during the Trojan War period. It belongs to a later era of Greek history, centuries after Mycenae fell. So why is it in the film? Because Nolan is deliberately destabilizing the timeline. He's taking a world that's supposed to feel ancient and heroic and making it feel unstuck, anachronistic. Like time itself has already started breaking down around these people, and they don't even know it. And Nolan himself has justified this. He's pointed out that the oldest depictions of Homeric characters tend to show them in the style of Homer's own time, not the Trojan War period. So there's a strong case for portraying things the way the first audience received the story. If you've watched Memento, if you've watched Tenet, if you've watched Dunkirk, you know that a fractured timeline isn't a mistake in a Nolan film. That's a signature, and it connects directly to the source text. The screenplay draws from Emily Wilson's 2017 translation, the first English translation of the Odyssey by a woman. Wilson doesn't frame the fall of Troy as a glorious conquest. She calls it a wrecking, a systematic destruction of a holy city. The language strips every shred of heroism from that victory and replaces it with men tearing apart something sacred. So when Odysseus leaves Troy, he's not leaving a battlefield where he won. He's leaving a crime scene where he's the primary suspect. If that just reframed the way you see those trailers, if something about the armor controversy just flipped in your head, that's exactly the moment people hit like. Not because I asked, but because something shifted. Hi, I'm Nick, you're watching Cynic Cults, and we're just getting started. Because the armor is only the first layer. Before this video is over, I'm going to show you what Nolan did to the gods, why Matt Damon's entire filmography has been building to this one role, and what happened to every single IMAX camera on this production, and why that last detail might be the most important clue of all. Now let's talk about the thing you don't see in this film, the gods, or rather, what Nolan has done to them. Every Hollywood version of Greek mythology gives you the gods as characters. Zeus on a throne, Poseidon with a trident, divine beings with faces and voices and opinions about your fate. Nolan erased that. He said it himself. The big creative breakthrough was realizing that everything now explained by science was once considered supernatural. That's the lens. Now, Athena does appear on screen. She's a character in this story. But the way Nolan appears to handle her suggests she operates within the world, not above it. She moves through disguises. She functions as a human presence, not a glowing deity descending from the clouds. And Poseidon? He never shows up at all. His wrath is translated purely into maritime violence, storms, rogue currents, shipwrecks that feel less like divine punishment and more like the ocean simply not caring whether you live or die. That's not traditional mythology. That's physics wearing mythology's name. Think about what this means. In Homer's version, the gods intervene constantly. Athena guides. Poseidon destroys. Zeus arbitrates. Even when they punish you, at least someone is paying attention. At least your suffering means something inside a cosmic framework. Strip the supernatural spectacle away. Keep the gods grounded, invisible, or disguised. And what's left? A man on open water for a decade. No cosmic justice. No divine arbitration. Just weather. Just tide. Just the mechanical, indifferent physics of a world that doesn't know his name and wouldn't care if it did. That's not an epic quest anymore. That's a survival horror. And the locations prove it. Look at where Nolan actually shot this film. The underworld sequences, the realm of the dead, where Odysseus speaks with the ghosts of fallen warriors, were filmed in the black volcanic deserts of Iceland. Not a cave with a glowing river of souls. Not a Hollywood set with green fog and rubber stalactites. A real, barren, lifeless moonscape where the horizon line vanishes and the sky presses down on you like a ceiling made of ash. Calypso's island, the place where Odysseus is imprisoned for 7 years by a nymph who claims to love him, was filmed in the sand dunes of the western Sahara. Not a tropical paradise. Not a lush prison. An endless, hostile, beautiful nowhere where the only company is the wind. And in Homer's version, Odysseus spends every single day of those 7 years sitting on the beach, staring at the ocean and weeping. A man surrounded by beauty who can only see the direction of home. Look at those locations. No warmth, no comfort, no mythological grandeur, just terrain that wants you gone. That's Nolan's version of the divine. Not characters on thrones, environments that punish. Not justice, gravity. And then there are the Sirens. In Homer, the Sirens sing a beautiful song that lures sailors to crash against the rocks. It's one of the most iconic images in Western mythology. But the production reports suggest Nolan has done something far more disturbing with them. Instead of creatures singing you toward physical death, the sirens in this film reportedly vocalize the protagonist's own trauma. They don't lure him toward rocks. They lure him toward himself. His guilt over the sacking of Troy. His survival when everyone else died. The massacres he ordered. The temples his men desecrated. The song isn't beautiful because it promises pleasure. It's beautiful because it promises the one thing Odysseus can't have: understanding. Unless the sirens aren't monsters at all. Unless they're the voice inside his own head that he's been running from since Troy. Unless every storm, Every shipwreck, every creature on every island is just the universe refusing to let a man outrun what he did. The monsters aren't blocking his way home. They are his way home. And that's why he can't survive the trip. And here's the detail that should break your heart if you let it. When Odysseus left Ithaca for the Trojan War, his mother was alive. She was standing. She was waiting for him to come home. While he was out blinding cyclopes, dodging shipwrecks, and sleeping on Calypso's island for 7 years, his mother died. Not in battle, not from illness. She died of grief. She died because her son never came home, and she couldn't survive the waiting. And Odysseus didn't find this out from a letter. He found out in the underworld. He walked into the land of the dead and saw his mother's ghost standing in front of him. That's how he learned she was gone. That's not mythology. That's a son arriving too late and knowing it's his fault. Let that sit for a second. Now, everything I've shown you so far, the armor, the gods, the locations, the sirens, that's the world Nolan built. But what I'm about to show you next is why he cast one specific actor to walk through it. And once you see the connection, you will never unsee it. The casting. And this is where it gets genuinely unsettling. Think about Matt Damon's career. Got just in Nolan's films, across everything. Saving Private Ryan. An entire squad is sent across occupied France to bring one man home. The Martian. A man stranded on another planet, surviving alone until he can be brought home. Jason Bourne. A man who doesn't know who he is, fighting across continents to reclaim his identity, which is, in its own way, a journey home to the self. Damon doesn't just play characters who want to go home. He plays characters where home is a structural obsession, not a destination on a map, a psychological condition, a gravitational pull that defines every choice, every lie, every act of violence these characters commit. And now think about Interstellar. In Interstellar, Damon played Dr. Mann, a man stranded on a dead ice planet in another galaxy who falsified his data, told the world his planet could sustain life because he knew that if the truth got out, nobody would ever come for him. Dr. Mann lied so someone would come rescue him. And when they finally came, he tried to kill them. Every resource, every life, every year, all sacrificed to protect one lie. Dr. Mann didn't want to save humanity. He wanted to go home. And he would destroy everyone around him to get there. Now look at Odysseus, a legendary strategist, the architect of the Trojan horse, the greatest military deception in Western mythology, a man who blinded a cyclops by giving a false name, a man whose single most defining skill, above all others, is the lie. Most people are going to watch the Odyssey and see a hero who lies to survive impossible situations. That's the standard reading. The clever trickster outsmarting gods and monsters. But what if every single lie Odysseus tells is the exact mechanism that guarantees his crew's death? The Trojan horse destroyed Troy, but Troy's destruction triggered the divine wrath that made the journey home impossible. The false name Nobody saved him from the Cyclops, but his pride forced him to shout his real name as he sailed away. One shout, one moment of arrogance. That's what turned Poseidon into his enemy. That's what condemned every last man on those 12 ships. Dr. Mann lied to get rescued. Odysseus lies, and it guarantees he can never be rescued. The inversion is surgical. And this isn't a coincidence. This is the pattern that fractures through every Nolan film. Leonard Shelby tattoos lies onto his body to survive a reality he can't face, and the tattoos become the prison. Dom Cobb builds an entire dream architecture to avoid confronting his dead wife, and it nearly swallows reality. Robert Angier destroys himself, his rival, and every person who loved either of them, to sustain one illusion. The Nolan lie isn't a plot device. It's a thesis about human psychology. The lie doesn't save you. The lie is the cage. And every time you tell it again, the walls get thicker. Odysseus is the oldest version of that cage, 3,000 years old. The original liar who cannot stop lying, even when every lie takes him further from the only place he wants to be. That's not a hero's journey. That's a prison sentence with an ocean view. And look at what the production did to sell this physically. Damon underwent an extensive training regimen and a strict diet to achieve a weathered, lean physique. 10 years at sea with no crew, no supplies, and a universe that actively wants you at the bottom of the ocean. What does that body look like? It looks like a man the sea is slowly eating. Look at him in the trailer. The posture. The hollowed edges. That's not a king returning to reclaim his throne. That's a shipwreck learning to walk again. But here's the part I've been saving. Remember when I told you at the start what happened to every single IMAX camera on this production might be the most important clue of all? We're here now. The Odyssey is the first feature film in cinema history shot entirely on IMAX 70mm film cameras. Over 2 million feet of physical analog film. Not a single green screen. Not a single digital environment. Actors hiking 45 minutes in period-accurate footwear to reach remote locations. Real open ocean waves crashing against real wooden ships built specifically to be destroyed. 91 days of principal photography. The most physically grueling shoot of Nolan's career. And here's the thing. Nolan is legendary for destroying IMAX cameras during production. During The Dark Knight, he smashed one of only 4 operational IMAX cameras in the world at the time. On The Odyssey, a film about catastrophic shipwrecks, volcanic deserts, open ocean storms, and the systematic destruction of everything the protagonist touches, every single camera survived. Not one was damaged. Not one was lost. Nolan himself talked about this. He said he didn't destroy an IMAX camera on this film, that he's destroyed several in his time, but, and these are his words, these ones survived the Odyssey. He's not talking about cameras anymore. He's talking about Odysseus. He's talking about the story. He's talking about a 3,000-year-old poem that has survived the collapse of every civilization that tried to claim it. Mycenaean, classical, Roman, medieval, modern, and is still here, still being told, still surviving. The celluloid survived the Odyssey, just like the man. And if you push this one step further, Nolan's insistence on using physical film instead of digital sensors is itself a parallel to Homer. Homer preserved this story in the only medium he had, human memory and spoken verse, a medium that could vanish the moment the last person who knew the words died. Nolan is doing the same thing, preserving a story on celluloid, a medium the industry is actively trying to kill, because the act of preservation is the point. The cameras are the poem. The film is the fire that keeps the words alive. Now remember that line I played you before anything else in this video? 3 words. We've earned them. Let's go back. So here's what Nolan has actually built. And this is what nobody's saying. A film where the armor tells you the civilization is already dead before the first battle starts. Where the gods are stripped of their spectacle and made to operate as disguised humans or hostile weather. Where the hero's greatest weapon, the lie, is the exact mechanism that guarantees his destruction. And where the physical medium of the film itself mirrors the endurance of the man it's about. This isn't a homecoming story. This is a ruin study. Listen to that line again. That's not a villain taunting a boy. That's evidence. That's a man who has already decided the king is dead and the kingdom is his. Over 100 suitors camped inside the royal palace, devouring the kingdom's wealth, courting the queen, threatening the prince. That's not a plot complication. That's a societal autopsy. The kingdom didn't wait for him. It rotted. And Odysseus isn't racing toward Ithaca. He's racing toward proof that Ithaca, the Ithaca he remembers, the Ithaca he fought 20 years to protect, is gone. And when he finally arrives, disguised as a beggar, unrecognized by his own wife, Unrecognized by his own son, only one living creature in the entire kingdom knows who he is. His dog, Argos, the dog he raised as a puppy before he left for Troy. 20 years later, this animal is lying on a pile of dung outside the palace, old, neglected, covered in ticks. And the moment Odysseus walks past, still disguised, still hiding, the dog lifts his head, wags his tail. For the first time in 20 years, someone recognizes the king of Ithaca. And then Argos dies, right there, as if he'd been holding on for exactly this long. Odysseus can't even stop to mourn him, because if he reacts, his disguise is blown. He finds a house full of strangers eating his food in a kingdom that forgot his name, and the only creature who remembered him is already gone.
That world is gone.
I played you that line at the very beginning of this video, before you knew about the armor, before the gods, before Mann, before the cameras. Now you understand what it means. That line isn't dialogue. That's the thesis of the entire film, spoken aloud. That's the Odyssey. Not the journey across the sea. The moment you arrive and realize the place you've been dreaming about for 10 years exists only in the dreaming. And one last thing. Tomorrow, July 17th. When this film opens, don't wait for it to show up on a streaming app 6 months later, or don't watch it on your phone. Find the biggest IMAX screen you can. Sit in the dark. Let 2 million feet of celluloid fill that screen from edge to edge. Let the ocean crash through your chest. Let the silence of Calypso's desert sit on your skin. A 3,000-year-old story. A poet who had nothing but his voice and a fire. Nolan gave it the largest canvas in cinema history. Go. Experience it. In IMAX. The way Homer would have told it, if he had light instead of words. This is the part where most channels ask you to subscribe. I'm not going to do that. But if this video made you see the Odyssey differently, not as a hero's quest, not as a monster movie, but as something more honest than both, then you already think like we do here. We're building an empire of people who see what the camera doesn't show. You know what to do. So here's what I want to know from you. Does Odysseus earn his homecoming? Or was Ithaca already gone before he even left Troy? I'm not looking for the safe answer. Tell me what you actually think. I want to see where you land on this. Until next time, stay cold.